I do want to get some perspective now on the implications of what's happening in this small island country of Bahrain. It is impacting the global markets, particularly when you take a look at credit default swaps. We're joined by phone by John Sfakianakis, chief economist for Banque Saudi Fransi. He joins us from Riyadh this morning. Well, into the evening for you, John. Thank you for calling in. When you look at credit default swaps for Saudi Arabia, considered, the most stable country in many ways, you are seeing nervousness that this contagion will spread.
Well, it's expected, Margaret. Since Saudi Arabia is sitting next to Bahrain, it's just a bridge away, 16 miles away, separating Bahrain from Saudi Arabia. And of course, markets have a tendency to first exaggerate and second to not to differentiate. They lump everybody in the same category. But of course, what's happening in Bahrain is causing people in Saudi Arabia and the greater region to be concerned.
Well, John, early on when we saw the beginnings of what became, a full-fledged uprising in Egypt, people said, wait, let's not generalize with contagion, resource poor versus resource rich. That's going to be the difference. The Gulf countries are fine with their monarchies and their subsidies to their citizens. Why is that not the case in Bahrain?
Because unlike the case of Egypt, which was a division between dictator and democracy, in Bahrain it's the division between Sunni and Shia. So it's religious sectarian differences, and they have been there for a number of years. These differences have percolated. And of course, it has to do with the fact that low-income groups, which have been less attended to by the government, are now saying that this is enough and we want to be taken care of.
Mm-hmm. You're referring to the fact that 60 or 70% of the population is Shiite, but the ruling family is Sunni, that fostering some divide. But bring me back to where Bahrain makes its commercial stamp on the world. They're trying to be a banking sector. How much of a worry is this sort of unrest in the streets? Are they jeopardizing really their long-term economic plan?
Well, the answer to that is it depends how bad things are going to go in Bahrain. 25% of Bahrain's economy is based on banking services. Since the 1970s, after Lebanon disappeared from the regional banking map, Bahrain has become really the Switzerland of the Gulf. And so whatever happens to Bahrain, it's going to have an impact on the way it looks and it appears in the international environment. Of course, if the unrest continues, that means that the tourists will not go. And of course, Formula One, which is an important indicator for Bahrain's position in the global map, might be canceled. So all this is bad news for Bahrain.
And you're expecting them to postpone or cancel upcoming bond sale?
The bond sale, which is a $1 billion sovereign bond, most likely is going to be postponed since yields are widening and it doesn't make a lot of sense for them to go out in the international market. CDSs now for Bahrain are at around 300 points. And it seems that they're going to spike if this continues, the political situation continues to look to be uncertain.
Talk to me, John, and I realize that this is speculation, but it's got to be something you've thought of. If they're a banking center, what about the banks that are doing business there? I mean, are you working the phones? Are colleagues of yours working the phones to find out about the stability, talking to the CEOs at these firms themselves?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, we have a branch in Bahrain through the Crédit Agricole. I think that the banking sector is very liquid and very stable. There is no dangers as a result of this imminently coming out. But of course, there are some risks. And I think that the central bank is going to take the appropriate measures. But yet again, we have to see how bad this is going to turn out to be. But I'm very confident that the banking sector, which is the most important sector in the economy, is going to remain confidently on top of things.
Capital flight?
Possibly, if stock markets open, Bahrain is going to open on Sunday. We're going to see how bad it's going to look. Yeah. But again, it's not as big. Saudi Arabia is opening tomorrow, and I expect that the market is going to go down.
All right, John, thank you very much. John Sfakianakis calling in from Riyadh with his read on what's happening right next door in Bahrain and the implications for the region's banking sector.